Before we get started, this season we'll be partnering with a number of organisations also interested in the developments of the business scene in East Africa. The first is The Economist, who have the following message. On a continent in which levels of financial inclusion remain low, the potential of fintech services is already evident in the rapid growth of the M-Pesa and MTN money networks. Although M-Pesa remains Africa's premier fintech provider, over 200 other fintech companies are disrupting the economy with new and innovative technologies. The Economist Event's Innovation Summit Africa, held in Nairobi on March 6th, will ask what makes fintech in Africa unique and how can its impact be harnessed to deliver constructive economic and social outcomes for the continent. Join the Economist Event's experts to explore opportunities and challenges produced by increasing digital transformation in the region and hear firsthand from global business leaders, policymakers, entrepreneurs, and technology specialists. To register and find out more, please visit the website innovationafrica.economist.com. Hello, and welcome to the East Africa Business Podcast. This show is all about showcasing entrepreneurs who are building businesses in this exciting part of the world. From reading high-level articles about the region, it can be difficult to really understand what's going on, and so my hope is that these interviews somewhat bring it to life, as well as stoking your curiosity to go find out more. On that, do take a look in the archive for more episodes that we've done. But for now, let's enjoy the rest of this funky intro music and then get started with the show. Understanding your customers is an incredibly important aspect of any forward-thinking business. In many developed markets, there are reams of public data available to understand demographics, as well as established market insights companies who give a perspective on consumer tastes. In Kenya, however, this was difficult. mSurvey was born from a PhD student's frustration at not being able to get such insights, and 5 years on, the company is one of the region's flagship startup success stories. In this episode, Sam Kamande, who is mSurvey's head of data, and I discuss the many applications of their technology platform, how the fact that African consumers are very comfortable communicating via text message is good for their business, and the vision for utilizing the big data they collect to give a holistic view on the African consumer. This is an absolutely cracking episode, full of tidbits of information on the East African economy and doing business here, and generally the real impact of applying technology to an area that has historically been overlooked. Anyway, without any further ado, here is Kamande. So I'm here today with Sam Kamande from mSurvey. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sam. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thanks. So just to get us started, can you tell us a bit about you and a bit about mSurvey?
So my name is Sam. I'm a data scientist at mSurvey. I basically look at all the products within mSurvey and make sure that all the clients that we have are getting as many insights as possible from the data and that they're growing from that, because that's the whole idea, helping businesses grow. My background is actually in statistics as well as computer science. I was in mSurvey probably about 5 or so years ago. In 2012, 2013, I was probably employee number 5, and then left, got some experience in the corporate, a big corporation. But I came back in 2017 to help in the next phases of the company, which is accelerating the growth and making sure that we're generating as much revenue as possible. mSurvey is a platform that supports engagement between customers and organizations. The vision of mSurvey is basically to connect all organizations with their consumers and make sure that they're having as much engagement as possible, thereby driving loyalty, revenues, and that's something that's not been done in this part of the world, especially in emerging markets where mSurvey focuses. We're trying to connect all the previously unconnected customers, consumers, so to say, whose voices have not been heard in terms of the different products, in terms of them providing feedback to the different brands they consume and the different organizations that they interact with on a daily basis. And it's all mobile driven in the sense that the mobile penetration in Africa is probably around 85%. And so how do we leverage on that? Just a brief history, if you may allow, in terms of how mSurvey started out.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So the CEO and co-founder of mSurvey, Kenfield Griffith, who's from Montserrat Island, somewhere in the Caribbean, was in Kenya doing his PhD actually in MIT, and he came in Kenya to collect some data and see how he could work around his PhD or studying design and computation. He came to Kenya and he realized that for you to collect data around very small issues or you're accessing very remote areas, it's very hard. It was very hard for him. And so he ended up overhauling his whole, whatever he'd come to do, then started focusing on accessing these people and making businesses and organizations, institutions, be it for profit or not for profit, access these people whose voices had previously not been heard. And this was basically around mobile, because mobile penetration in emerging markets, in as much as we had, lagging behind a few things, mobile penetration is quite high, considering that, you look at SIM card ownership in Kenya, for instance, and it's around 120%.
So it's 120%.
Meaning that, by and large, a lot of people will have 2 SIM cards.
Okay. Oh, God. So for every 100 people,
yeah,
there are 120 SIM cards.
Yes, precisely.
And that's because, and obviously, I take it that's different.
Yeah, it will definitely provide 2 different providers. It will be Safaricom and Airtel, or Safaricom and Telcom, all for different reasons, right? They'll have one for voice, the other one will be for data. Okay. Because they probably reap different benefits from them.
Sure.
And so that was the whole idea. And mSurvey started building was from then, 2012. So it's been 5 years of solid growth, became commercially viable in 2015. Yeah, so far so good. So we've since then, we've been able to have about 12 million unique conversations with customers across Africa, and a bit more in the Caribbean, where the founder is definitely from. Okay. That's a huge number, considering that this is feedback that's coming from consumers and straight into the hands of, organizations who would previously not be able to have such information.
Good. Okay. Right. Now, cool. A good comprehensive introduction. Just to take a couple of steps back. So right. So mSurvey is like a platform.
It's a platform, yeah.
And on one side you've got all of these consumers.
Yes.
Who get asked questions and give their feedback. And on the other side you've got various organizations plugging into this.
Yeah, precisely, right. So you're providing the technology for that to happen, right? Very seamless.
Okay, cool. And so talk me through. So roughly, you say 12 million
engagements.
Yeah. So engagements different to
engagements mean that we've had. So if this is mSurvey and this is Sam, yeah. I've engaged you once. I've engaged another person another 2 times or whatever. So uniquely, I'd say, because we definitely engage a lot of people more than once, depending on the kinds of brands you engage with. So we interact with. So it could be 11 or so million unique engagements.
Okay.
Right. So it means that we've actually talked to 11 million people.
Wow. Okay. How do you sign up 11 million people? So
the whole idea of mobile is that it's very ubiquitous in emerging markets, right? So you take, for instance, Kenya. The habit that the one thing that people use technology for, based on a few studies, is texting, right? You notice that actually, according to a paper that was published, I think a year ago, 80% of mobile device usage in Africa is actually texting. So that's the main thing people use their mobile phones for. And so it's something new altogether. And so whenever you send out what you call a conversation, what would be conventionally referred to as a survey, we realize that people are not that apprehensive about it.
Okay, so they're kind of used to getting...
Yeah.
But how have you had to go out and individually sign up 11 million people?
So that brings me back to the kinds of products that mSurvey has, right? So there are 2 kinds of products. One of them is called Voice of the Customer. So Voice of the Customer is where we help organizations collect feedback at each point of transaction, right? So you're Sam and you walk into a bank. Conventionally, what would happen is after the transaction, you would get a piece of paper, right, where you provide your feedback if the service was good or not, and throw it into a box somewhere. And that happens in so many institutions, right? Now we're making it possible in such a way that whenever you engage in a transaction, be it in a bank, be it in a hospitality, be it in a restaurant, be it in a hospital, be it in an insurance firm, then immediately after that transaction, we trigger a survey, what we'd call a conversation, and then you provide your feedback.
Okay, and so in this case, the bank has given you my phone number.
Absolutely, right. So we integrate into all these businesses in different kinds of ways. So for instance, one of the things that has really helped us is mobile money in Kenya, right? Because a lot of these transactions happen through mobile money. You go to a restaurant, probably, every couple of times you're paying that mobile money. We've integrated to mobile money, and then so it becomes an automated kind of trigger for banks, insurance companies, and mostly in the service industry. We integrated into their CRMs.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So it makes it very easier for that to happen. So banks are our clients. We have, for instance, in Kenya, most of the major banks, Safaricom is our big partner.
And so Safaricom is the the big telco.
Yes, Safaricom is the biggest telco in Kenya, commands about, I could be wrong, but it's definitely more than 70% of the market.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so that's one of the products, voice of the customer. And the main objective of that is to get real-time feedback from customers. So for instance, I'll give you an example of one of the flagship clients for this product, who is Java. Java has a vision of being the Starbucks of Africa, right? And whenever you go to Java and you pay via M-Pesa, via mobile money, you immediately get a survey just asking you two questions, right? One of them is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend Java to your friends and family?
Why do you ask that question?
Interesting question. We work with, so that question ends up calculating a metric called the Net Promoter Score. Now, Net Promoter Score is a metric that was developed a couple of years back by Richard Owen, who was then working at Satmetrics. I think then he founded Satmetrics while working on that with a couple of other researchers. So that one question and the metric that's calculated from it is directly tied to revenue and growth. So this metric basically measures loyalty, right? So you have, if you give a score of 0 to 10, you could break it down into 3 parts. 0 to 5, you are a detractor, right? Sorry, 0 to 6, you're a detractor. Then 7 and 8, you're passive, so you're on the fence. And 9 and 10, then you're a promoter.
Okay, so the big picture is Java is sending out every time someone has a transaction, they're saying, would you recommend us?
Yes, would you recommend us?
And then you're saying that can predict the revenue?
Yes. So it's important in a couple of ways. One, it measures loyalty, right? So you want definitely all of your customers to give you a 9 or a 10 because you know very well that they'll go out there and spread the word. But more importantly, you want to focus on the detractors who would actually ruin your brand image. Because if you go to Java or a bank or wherever and you get bad service, then you're definitely going to talk to people about it, right? And also the people on the fence, because those could make or break you, right? You want to please them and convert them into loyal customers. And so the metric that's calculated off that then is able to be tracked over time, something that again didn't happen using conventional means. And most importantly, the second question which follows that, or the follow-up question, is why? So you're Sam and you came into Java and had your milkshake, your coffee, and you gave us a rating of 4 because the milkshake was too flat, right? Then you ask you why. And you give your reason as that. We are able to contact you immediately because it's real time, right?
When you say we, is it mSurvey doing this or Java doing this?
We are providing the platform for Java to do that, okay, right? So they normally get this whenever you give a bad rating and for whatever reason you give, then they're able to get those triggers and those notifications in real time. So probably before you even walk back to the parking, you'll receive a call from the manager.
Oh, really? So they've got from the manager of the store or from someone in there?
The manager of that particular branch.
Wow. Okay. That's
it's it because they'll ask you, we are sorry about this, and by the time that whole experience is done, psychologically and even from you as a customer, you'll feel quite pleasant about it, right? And conventionally, this couldn't happen, right? Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so, when you went to Java House, did you know that this was going to be possible, or did this sort of thing only really come about after you kind of got into it?
I mean, it's all about trying out different things. I mean, mSurvey is a very young company, and like I said, we didn't figure out the commercial model until probably 2.5, 3 years ago. And so it was a process of iteration and trying out different things. Definitely the platform was there. We were able to integrate into telcos within emerging markets and have conversations with people on mobile, right? But then what was the right product fit for this market? Where was the biggest gap, right? And so that was something that was previously untapped. And we saw a very great opportunity to connect customers directly to organizations. And Java was willing to come on board fast. Since then, it's grown significantly, if I may say, because now we're seeing more and more companies take customer experience seriously. And customer experience goes hand in hand with customer loyalty, right? I must have a good experience and then I'll become loyal to you. And after that, we've had, the biggest banks in Kenya use this score. NPS actually is something that's globally used by all the big companies. If you look at your Apple and Amazon, they all have an NPS score. They have different ways of measuring this. But then in this side of the world, how do you track that over time? So that's another advantage in the sense that if you're Java, you're able to get this NPS score and make adjustments. If, for instance, you notice that, it's a particular theme that's driving a poor score.
Okay, so if lots of people are saying flat milkshakes, you're like, right, we need to...
Precisely, exactly, right? And you make adjustments and then see how the NPS improves. If people are saying, hey, your waiters are rude, then, you make your adjustments and then start tracking if those adjustments have a direct impact on your NPS score. And in most of the cases, they do. Okay? Sorry for, going into deep about it.
No, yeah, not at all.
The second product is, so you have voice of the customer, where it's, direct real time and you're able to connect to your customers. On the other hand, we have so many people who do not have an understanding of emerging markets, more so Africa, right? And this goes back to why mSurvey was initially started, which is our CEO came in here and he did not have access to data, right? Collecting data in Africa is very expensive, especially when you're looking at the far-flung areas and so many people are still not connected. The infrastructure is still, we've come a long way, but we still have a significant way to go, right? So how do we enable people to understand the market better? And one, more accurately at a cheaper cost, as well as faster. Because if you do it conventionally, it takes a lot of time. I wouldn't say it's expensive, but
when you say conventionally, does that mean like
pen and paper and sending people to the field and telling them, hey, go to this corner of the country and talk to 20 people, go to this other corner and talk to 15 people, right? And just to highlight this, I'm not saying that, we throw out the bath water together with the child, right? I'm still saying, hey, let's keep doing this. It's helpful because there's so many qualitative kind of studies that still need direct interactions. You need your focus group still, and you need all these many other things. But if you want something quick turnaround with a very quick turnaround time, something that's less costly depending on your budget, then we're saying, hey, we have audience on demand, which is mSurvey's second product. And what this does is that we've managed to curate about 40,000 people in Kenya, for instance. We have smaller audiences in other countries which operate in, which is South Africa, Zambia, and in the Caribbean. But in Kenya, which is a focus market where we have 40,000 people, around the 40,000 people. And if you want to ask anything in Kenya, if you want to find out anything about how people are feeling today, what brand makes them happy, how do they think about the policy, the economy, all that, in very few minutes, you will have that information.
You can basically you've got these 40,000 people and you just blast out a message when someone comes in and says, I want to find out if people like the color red. Oh no, what's a better example of like a question someone might use?
Question, for instance, like today I got a survey that asked me if I use makeup or I know anyone who uses makeup.
And your answer was?
Yes, of course. I do the occasional mascara, just a bit of it.
Just on weekends.
Yeah, just on weekends. Yeah. But yeah, so the idea is you don't actually blast them because we try as much as possible to build a relationship with these 40,000 people.
Yeah.
Right? So, and since we engage them frequently, they kind of know who mSurvey is. And the goal for us is to become so ubiquitous in this market that every single consumer will have interacted with mSurvey. So that whenever you see a message that starts with, hey, mSurvey invites you to take this survey, then you're like, oh, mSurvey.
Yeah. Just got a couple of questions on this. So I think, the mascara one's quite an interesting one.
Yeah.
What was it like? What type of institution was asking that question?
I think it was someone who was trying to have a conversation with and helping one of the beauty product suppliers in Kenya. Okay. So they just wanted to find out from part of our audience, their knowledge around makeup.
I can imagine they might want to just target females.
Yes, absolutely.
So do you give the ability to segment your 40,000 on, for example, gender or other things as well?
A very great question. So right now, based on what we've built over the last probably 2 years, we just have 3 characteristics on which you can segment our audience, which is gender, age, as well as location. Right? Definitely, we're still in the very early stages. At least now we have a significant number that you can ask pretty much about anything. But now moving forward, we're trying to grow the width and depth of that. And what do I mean by that? Width in the sense that we're trying to grow this to 1 million people, 2 million, whatever. And it can be used for different things, not just conversations, but even advertising and all that, right? And the depth means that we're trying to learn more about each of these people, right? So right now we know this is Sam Floy. He is How old are you, Sam?
26.
26. So this Sam Floy is 26 years old. He lives in Kibera. Yeah, and he's male, right? Now, over the next couple of months, we're trying to, using the data that, because we have conversations with you on a frequent basis, right? Every now and then you get a survey where we'll ask something about, what's your occupation? What's your highest level of education? And so many other demographic things. And the idea is to learn more about you. So at the end of it all, the objective is to have as much information about every single member of our audience as possible. And this will be through, survey conversations, as well as very high level machine learning, where we're looking at all the information that we've collected over the last, couple of years for the many conversations we've had with you, and how then do we translate that into understanding who you are.
I see. So this might be, what's an example? Is that like looking at the responses?
Yeah, definitely the responses, right? So because, for instance, Sam did the makeup survey, right? Maybe 2 months ago, he did a survey around farming and what he understands about mangoes, right? So we start putting all these different, responses together, and gradually we learn what kind of a person you are, like what your preferences are.
So in that, are you saying that lots of people would have been asked about mangoes, but I would be the only person to respond? Or is it that you would have...
Your response would be the most important thing. Lots of people would have been asked about mangoes, depending on the kind of survey that was out there. For instance, someone would have asked, hey, do you prefer mangoes or bananas, right? In a different survey altogether, right? But then we have all that data. So we learned that, hey, Sam lives in Kibera, but he loves mangoes. Then from another survey that you did, God knows how many months ago, we also learned that, hey, Sam also loves making whatever.
Playing football. Not
playing football, right?
Yeah.
Right. So at the end of the day, we know what kind of a consumer you are, right? So that's the whole idea. And in this way, it becomes easier for us to help clients understand the market better. Because if you are, again, I'll use the example of Sam. You're Sam and you want to penetrate, this market, and these are the people you're targeting, then we give you a very solid foundation in terms of, these are the people, this is the profile you're probably looking for, engage them and find out what their interests are.
Got it. So the vision really for this is to, yes, it's to sort of deliver quick insights to people, but also I can imagine that, another way of doing this would be to look at the pages that people liked on Facebook and to get there into. But whereas if people aren't doing that, this is your way of getting those bits of data.
Precisely, right? And this is all self-reported. So you're not trying to, go through your pages on Facebook or, what have you. So it's all based on what you've told us, that you understand who you are. Yeah, and the vision remains to provide the best understanding of the customer in Africa, be it from a feedback perspective or be it from, you understanding the market so that you can build your brand share, your brand equity and what have you, right? Last year, we launched a product called Consumer Wallet, right? Very visionary product. Sorry to gloat, but I just might. So, see, there are different aspects of a consumer, right? You could look at them from a health perspective. You could look at them from how they spend. You look at them from, their psychographic information and, what makes them tick. So many things, right? So Consumer Wallet was the first product in trying to understand the consumer wholly. And Consumer Wallet, like the name clearly suggests, is about understanding the pocket of the Kenyan consumer, right? So we're trying to figure out, this is a person in Nairobi, right? Out of all this, out of this wide range of categories, there's food, there's transport, he goes to the hospital, he bets, he drinks. What percentage of his wallet goes into each of those buckets? But, just to take it back, the first thing we want to know is, what's the size of his wallet?
And when you say that, are we talking about cash?
Yes, cash, definitely, because
as in cash notes, or are we talking about their mobile?
Cash notes, because see, this product started out because of a problem that Safaricom had. So in as much as Kenya, for instance, has very high mobile money penetration, probably about 90% of the transactions, quote me on that, still go through cash.
Okay, yeah.
So they understand this 10% that goes through M-Pesa, but then they're not able to track this other 90%. So how?
Just for M-Pesa is the mobile money.
Yeah, mobile money service by Safaricom, right? So what about this 90%? What are people using? What are people buying? Right? On any given month, what's the consumer consumption, consumers expenditure like? right? And that's how consumer wallet was born. So we were able to say the average amount of the average wallet size in Kenya, which is basically the average expenditure in Kenya and you can, slice it by, by the region again, by the gender, by different segments that we've built since then. You're able to see, hey, this is the average size of the wallet.
And how do you get that information?
So again, it's all based on mobile conversations, because we're able to have conversations with customers every single day, very quickly, and then we give them a reward for it, right? So we talk to our audience every single day. Then we ask them questions around how much they spent the previous day and what they spent it on and how they used to pay, because that's also very important in trying to map out the economy, right? And at the end of the month, we derive these measures, which is, the average wallet size, which basically is an aggregated measure that tells you the average expenditure of a given consumer in this place, by this gender, by this age, and then what proportion of that goes into each of these subcategories, right? So by and large, you're able to understand the economy. So very interesting. One of the interesting insights from this is that betting has become very significant. I know most people know that, but it's been eating a lot into other products, right? And this brings me back to another objective of consumer wallet, which is, you might think that simply because you're in the mango business, or that's a very water business, right? Just because you're in the water business, then your competitor is someone else who's producing water, right? And in most cases, it's not. It's a gloomy story, but by and large, the Kenyan consumer is struggling, right? So they have to balance and juggle between what their priorities are, and they have to make compromises every now and then, right? So you might be selling water, but you notice that, hey, the volumes you're pushing out in the market are reducing. Why? Because the consumer is struggling, and he had to make these shifts and decided, hey, I'm not going to drink this water this month. I can't afford it. I have to buy more food for the family. Such things, right? And one interesting one is betting, where we see, hey, betting came up all of a sudden, and it's been building up for the last 1 or so years, and it means that this Kenyan consumer who's been earning 20,000 shillings
is about $200.
Yeah, about $200, right? Mm-hmm. Who's had a disposable income of $200 a month, is spending about $20 or so betting every single month. It means that there's someone somewhere who might be feeling the effect of that, because the disposable income didn't go any higher, right? Who's this person? And you start seeing the trends, and you realize, oh, the guy who sells alcohol is actually being affected by betting. Who'd have thought that? Mm. I'm in a bar somewhere drinking. Maybe I wanted to order one more pint, but I think, Arsenal is playing Man City today. I might as well place this instead of drinking these 200 shillings, $2. Let me get on a betting platform. And it's very easy nowadays because you do it on mobile money. Then you place a bet. So you end up not drinking this one pint that you would have drunk. You end up losing the 200. The guy who's supplying the alcoholic drinks manufacturer ends up losing a bit of their volumes. And so you notice some of these trends using consumer wallet. And that's the whole idea, trying to understand the consumer in every single way.
Just to clarify, that's currently with your 40,000 base?
Yes.
And what's is there an incentive for people to respond?
Yeah, definitely. There's a reward, about 2 cents. No, 20 shillings is how much in dollars?
20 cents.
Yeah, 20 cents, right? Yeah, about 20 cents. We've seen that from multiple.
Is that a cost on your business?
It's a cost on our business that we kind of support using whoever client is paying for it.
Oh, okay. So if you ask a question, you'll factor it into your pricing?
Definitely, we factor that into the pricing.
Okay. And so we've got only a little bit of extra time. Just quickly, roughly how much does it cost to the audience on demand?
So for the audience on demand right now, we cost that at $5 per engagement.
And so that means that if I send out 100, I send out 1,000, that'll cost $5,000.
Yeah, $5,000. But that's on the upper side, right? So we've banded it in such a way that the more people you talk to, then the cheaper it is for you.
What happens if does everyone reply?
For our own audience, because we have a relationship with them, then about 65 to 70% completion rates.
So am I paying 5,000 or am I paying 3,500?
You'll actually pay for audience on demand. We'll make sure that you get your 1,000 people.
Oh, I see. So I'll pay for 1,000 responses. So you might send out 1,000.
Yeah. We'll calculate that and say we're going to send, Exactly.
Very good. All right.
Yeah, for voice of the customer, because it's real time and it's you talking to your customers who might not know what mSurvey is until a certain point, then the response rate is quite low. It's about 20 to 30%.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's more about feedback. So you're not very, very keen on the number of people who respond every single time. You just want to make sure that everyone who wants their voices heard has their voices heard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll just do one last question.
All right.
And I actually think of quite a good one. What should have a good question? Because basically we've spoken a lot about, I usually ask, what do you see the future with? But we've spoken a lot about the future.
Yeah.
So what can we do instead? What's been the biggest surprise that you found in doing this so far? Or like little insight or something where you did not expect that?
The one I always drop, man, is that one around betting.
Okay,
we're
we
betting.
had that one.
Yeah, we had that one, which is 5% of the expenditure.
Yeah.
This is it's tied to what we do, and I think that I've been surprised by the fact that businesses are taking up customer experience more seriously, right? That's something I did not witness, a few years ago. And now we have even the government trying to push that. And you go back and reflect and you think, oh, wow, even the government thinks about Kenyans and citizens and the consumers. I think a few days ago, one of the cabinet secretaries was at the airport and said, hey, you guys need to work more on your customer experience. Right. So that has because initially when you just used to interact with these brands, you go to a bank, you queue for long, or the teller is rude to you. You didn't have an avenue of relaying that, and all you thought was, these guys are trash. Right. And you change backs and all that. But then coming to this other side where we're trying to improve that, you realize that more and more, all these companies are actually taking customer experience very seriously, and good for mSurvey because we are at the middle of that also. It's a pleasant surprise.
And also, good for the consumers, I guess.
Yes, and good for the consumers. I mean, it means that you're getting value for your money every single way.
Very cool. And so people listening at home, how can they, either sign, that's the other point, how do you sign up? If let's say I wanted to be on Audience Demand, do I sign up and generally hear more about you?
Yeah, so right now we're growing, right? So we would ordinarily just go out there and interact with people and just recruit them onto our audience by telling them who we are. But if you want to sign up to our audience, then we also have a way of doing that, which is sending the word mSurvey to a number. Can I give it out?
Okay.
You just text the word mSurvey, one word, mSurvey, to 0700 040 030.
Cool. And so I'll pop that in the show notes. And if I'm a business listening and I'm like, man, I need to get some consumer insights, what happens there?
What happens there, you get in touch with us. You can go on the website and you can request for a live demo. And one of customer success managers will be in touch with you probably in a few minutes.
Very good. All right.
msurvey.co.ke.
msurvey.co.ke.
Yeah,
that's show notes as well. Awesome. Well, Sam, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Floy, for having me. Sam Floy, appreciate it.
Before we head, just a quick moment to say thank you for listening. You can see show notes for this episode by heading to www.samfloy.com/podcast. That's samfloy.com/podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast and stay updated on future episodes, as well as a few other things like behind the scenes pictures, then please check out our Facebook page. Search for the East Africa Business Podcast and you can like it from there. Finally, if you felt this was a good episode, then please do leave a rating for the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It helps others like you find the show, and I, for one, would really appreciate it. In any case, have a great week and speak to you soon. This episode was brought to you by The Economist Events, who host over 80 events annually in over 30 countries on topics that convene world-class thought leaders on a range of strategic business issues. To find out more, head to events.economist.com.